All right, so I'm covering something that's kind of basic today. People who are just beginning or people who are just learning, this is a really important part of music theory that everything else is built upon when it comes to the realm of chords and chord progressions. So the first thing that we have to become familiar with is scales. What is a scale? A scale is a sequence of notes. So when you play that sequence of notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C, a C major scale. The C major scale is just an example, but we have this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, which is the same as 1. It's called the octave because it's 8 scale degrees away from the starting point. So we can refer to those as individual scale degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if you understand how a scale is built, all scales are built the same way. They're built in a series of whole steps and half steps, and it goes in this order. So you start on a note. We see as an example, we move a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step. So the whole pattern is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you memorize that pattern, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, it will allow you to build all of your scales, every single scale. So whatever scale you want to play in any key, that's how all of them are built, the same pattern. So you memorize the sequence of half steps and whole steps. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Once you memorize that sequence, you can translate it to any key. So like, let's say we were playing B, start on B, then you move a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That will give you all of the notes in a B major scale. Through memorizing that pattern, you can apply that to any key. You can start on a sharp or a flat note, F sharp, for example. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And then you have all the notes that are in that key. So if you memorize that pattern, you can learn every single key on every single instrument. It doesn't matter what the instrument is, as long as it's linear, like piano or guitar or violin or any kind of flute instrument, and you can play intervals of whole steps and half steps. Intervals. What is an interval? An interval is the space between two sounds. So when you make a sound, like if I make a sound like oh, then I make a note and then I make a sound like ah. Theoretically, between those sounds, there's space, and the space between those sounds is referred to in music theory as an interval. An interval is the musical space between two frequencies. Say we have this note. This is our 1. So this is the first note we're playing. This is the 1. Then in music theory terms, this interval would be the 2. That would be the 2. The distance between those is a second, because this is the second degree of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the distance between these two would be a third. This is 1, this is 3. This is a 1, this is a 3. 1, 3, 1, 3. This is a 4, 1, 4. And this is a 5. 1, 5. That's the power chord on guitar. If you play guitar and you play power chords, this is the interval that you use. Like Smoke on the Water. Or any other number of rock songs that you would play with power chords on guitar. The fifth is one of the most useful intervals. So as soon as you can play a fifth on any instrument, you want to practice your root and your fifth and getting to where your root and your fifth are. Because the fifth is halfway between everything. The fifth is a very, very significant interval in terms of theory. One of the things with music theory is it also has a subjective element to it. Like, music theory is an objective way of trying to measure things, but it has a subjective element, and ultimately that element is human observation and the way that we listen to things. And certain songs make us feel sad, or certain songs make us feel happy. And as much as those things have rational explanations, they are subjective in their qualities. The next thing that you have to understand is what chords are. A chord is a group of notes played at the same time. Those are all chords, right? There's all kinds of chords. There's complicated chords and there's simple chords. An example of a complicated chord would be a C major 7 at 9, which has a lot of notes in it. But it sounds cool. An example of a simple chord would be a triad. Just has 3 notes. Dyads, which means 2, that would be your fifth. Technically, they're not chords, but they are chords, because there's so many little notes that are inside of it. Like, when you hear a note, you don't just hear one note. You actually hear a whole bunch of notes that are put together, because everything is composed of little things. Kind of like atoms in the universe, when an apple is actually made out of all these little tiny things that are going on. A note, when you hear a note of an instrument, it's not just one frequency. It's all kinds of frequencies that are put together into this big, complicated thing. So even if you play 2 notes on an instrument, it does create a chord. So these chords are known as dyads, which means 2. There's 2 notes. Dyad versus triad. Triad, 3 notes. Now, if you understand how scales are made, then you understand how chords are made. Because a chord is just a combination of scale degrees. And what I mean is, when we play this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we play all these numbers. Any of these scales that we play, if we put the same combinations together, we get the same types of chords. Now, for a major chord, we're just going to take 1, 3, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5. We put those together, that gives us a major chord. This will always give us a major chord. So if we play B and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5, gives us a major chord. Or we play A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5, gives us a major chord. So that's how major chords are made. Minor chords share a different pattern. Minor chords share the pattern of 1, flat 3, 5. That's how you play a minor chord. 1, flat 3, 5. If we did it here, 1, 3, 5, 1, flat 3, 5. 1, flat 3, 5 always gives us that dark minor chord sound.